Well, business is picking up here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and here's a question for you. If you put Richard Petty behind the wheel of one of those Mustangs by Carroll Shelby, does that make it the King Cobra? I think so. We're just thinking about that. Just something to look at as we get ready to switch from the Cup Series to the Nationwide Series on the track here. And what an afternoon it's shaping up to be. The wind's dying down a little bit, and it's a beautiful day out here. We definitely suggest anybody in the area coming out this weekend and seeing NASCAR's two top series compete here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, because it's going to be a good one, especially with the action we've seen so far out on the track. Let's take a quick look at the menu, see what's still to come today. Nationwide Series final practice. They will practice and race tomorrow. Sprint Cup qualifying at 6:30, and you saw Mike Joy just mentioned 16 go or go home cars. 8 will make it, 8 will go home. And trackside at Las Vegas today features two of the best stories of this season so far, Scott Riggs and Jeremy Mayfield. That's trackside at Las Vegas at 8:30 Eastern time. So now let's get you down in the garage area and check in with Mr. Randy Pemberton. Randy, what's happening down there?
Well, drivers getting ready to climb back aboard here momentarily. Caught up with Jason Keller. Jason, 11th quick in that first practice session with about a 72. The leader was a 40. That's 30-40. So tell me about your prospects of not only running well in the race tomorrow, but for a possible pole.
Well, we didn't make a mock qualifying run, so naturally we think there's more speed in the car, but you're on the mat so much around this racetrack, we don't really know how much there is to gain. So the Scott Brand Tissue car is just really running good, and we've run well at all the races this year. We fell a little short at California, but we tried to take what we learned there and incorporate it here, and it seemed to come up to speed pretty quick. So hopefully we can have a good run.
Without getting too technical, we focus a lot on the cup cars and the bump stops and so forth. Are you guys doing the same types of things over here with your front ends that they are over there?
Well, we can combine with our springs. We don't do it with the bump stops and the shock. So it is a little bit different, but you know, we're just trying to play catch up a little bit. Todd Gordon's come over. He's built some great cars, but we don't really know until we get to the racetrack what the car needs. So hopefully we can take what we learned in California and incorporate it here, and it'll be good.
Okay, good luck the rest of the weekend. All-time leader in Nationwide Series starts, Jason Keller. JR?
And Randy, we of course like to call that he's the veteran, the elder statesman of the garage area, not just that he's been around a long time. Let's take a look at the Nationwide Series practice, which concluded just a little while ago. You saw it right here on speed. 5th fastest was Mike Bliss, and Mike's one of those guys year after year challenges the Cup regulars for that title in the Nationwide Series. 4th on the speed chart, one of the guys that's running full time in both top series this weekend. That's the very busy Carl Edwards in the number 60. 3rd fastest on the speed chart, the Biff. Greg Biffle was 3rd fastest in the practice session, coming off a tough break in California. You can always look for the Biff to bounce back in a big way. He'll be doing double duty this weekend as well. Another double duty driver is Kevin Harvick in the 33, who was 2nd fastest in the practice session, a little bit better than 177 miles per hour. And the man they are all chasing is, how about this guy, Las Vegas native Brendan Gaughan. He was fastest at 177.5 miles per hour in that number 62 machine. Look for Brendan Gaughan to be a factor when it comes to qualifying and racing on Saturday. There's your top 10. Leffler in the number 38 is 6th fastest. Kyle Busch, Mike Lynette, Steve Wallace in the 66. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., after having some engine trouble, got a replacement in that number 5, came back out there and recorded the 10th fastest time on the racetrack. We'll be back in just a moment here, and everybody's saying, go Daddy, when it comes to Cup practice and Nationwide practice as well. Welcome back, everyone, to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway Nationwide Series final practice is about to get underway here. We saw the Sprint Cup with their practice session just a moment ago, and we're getting ready to qualify here. 51 cars going for 43 spots in the Sprint Cup race on Sunday. Now, one of the best things about coming out here to Vegas is, of course, the Neon Garage, and you often see many celebrity impersonators down there, and we can promise you we're going to the real Bob Dylan.
That's right. There's no impersonators of me. Why would there be? But we're down in the fan area of the Neon Garage for a very special presentation down here. See Don Hawk, Chris Powell, Sam Bass with a beautiful guitar right there. And the purpose of this is, watch this. This is a special presentation, a car design with the Enduring Legends series by Motorsports Authentics. And this is to honor two very special people in the American culture. Number 1, Elvis, the king of rock and roll, and of course, Dale Earnhardt Sr., the 7-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion. This actually will be available, the die-cast version of this car, on NASCAR Superstore. So you can see the flying Elvis impersonators just behind the car right there. You see the big three, but if Wyatt wants to pan right up, there they are, the flying Elvis impersonators. We have an Elvis impersonator singing down here just to the left, but it's a very special day down here because this Enduring Legends Series has been part of the NASCAR community for the past couple of years. In fact, last year, Johnny Cash and also John Wayne were featured on a number 3 car for Dale Earnhardt Sr. You can see you come to Vegas and you see just about everything, singing a little Viva Las Vegas down here. With Sam Bass, you just made a very special presentation, and of course Sam Bass is a noted motorsports artist. A very special presentation with a guitar that you designed that's going to be auctioned off. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's an incredible opportunity to pay tribute to Dale Earnhardt and Elvis Presley. And anybody who knows me knows that I love music and guitars, and it was just an awesome opportunity to be given to design a special one-of-a-kind guitar that the Elvis Presley Tribute Fund and the Dale Earnhardt Foundation are going to have on the website and auction off to one lucky person that can own this one-of-a-kind guitar that I designed with Gibson. And I am just thrilled to death to be a part of this. I mean, being a music fan, of course, you know, Elvis is one of my all-time heroes, and getting the opportunity to work with Dale Earnhardt for close to 20 years and be a part of everything that he created at DEI is just a unique opportunity. So to be able to bring it all together on a guitar that a fan can own, I mean, it's just a dream come true, Bob.
That is a pretty cool deal. The details on the auction are forthcoming, but that is Sam Bass and his guitar. Now, I do want to go back to this race car over here, but you see the flying Elvises still in the backdrop of that race car. Now, this race car directly from Las Vegas is going to Graceland, the home of Elvis, and will be on display there. And then it will go back to North Carolina to the home of DEI, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, for Dale Earnhardt Day on April 29th, and of course that's Dale Earnhardt's birthday. And of course you can go to the NASCAR Superstore and buy this right here. Check this out. Behind me is the actual car of Elvis and also Dale Earnhardt, but this is the die-cast car that you can get from the NASCAR.com Superstore. Randy?
And let's jump in here real quick. Brendan Gaughan, quickest in that first practice. Congratulations on that. What are you going to do this practice?
You know, we got a good qualifying lap. I mean, hey, it's Vegas. I'll take any time I get to be on top of the board. But in race trim, our South Point Impala, we were maybe a 10th or 2 off. So right now we're just going back to making sure that race trim were really good. Qualifying, man, I wouldn't mind starting there for a change, though.
Absolutely. You know, real quickly, you know, we talked to a lot of drivers about, you know, when they race at their home track, and a lot of times it's at Lowe's and everything. But for you, this is really a special deal when you come out here to Vegas. Of course, your father in business out here, you're from out here.
Yeah, you know, our race team isn't here anymore, but, you know, everybody has Lowe's as their home track, not me. This is it, and we got the South Point colors flying high, and Rusty seems pretty happy right now. So everybody puts pressure on themselves at their home track, but for me, it's always worked well. We've won in the Craftsman trucks. We've won in the Winston West. Qualified up front in the Sprint Cup car, so see if we can't qualify, maybe race a little better in the Nationwide Series.
All right, have a good time practice.
Thank you.
All right, Brendan Gaughan runs very well here at his home track in Las Vegas.
All right, Randy, thanks a lot. And you know, that one Elvis on the far right there behind that car Bob Dillner was talking about, that looked a little bit suspiciously like Jimmy Spencer, and we haven't seen him yet. So that could possibly be Spencer dressed up as Elvis. I don't know. Last time we were here, though, it was very difficult for us to tell Jimmy that he didn't actually see Elvis down in the Neon Garage. Well, on the other side of this break coming up, we got cars on the racetrack. Nationwide Series practice coming up, and we also have Sprint Cup qualifying a little bit later on. There's Dale Earnhardt Jr., one of the double-duty drivers, and we will see him as well as the rest of NASCAR's best on the track on the other side of this commercial break.
Las Vegas Motor Speedway on a busy day for the NASCAR Nationwide and Sprint Cup Series. The Nationwide cars getting ready for their final practice session for tomorrow's event, the Samstown 300. Temperature holding at 66. The winds have abated somewhat, now down to about 18 miles an hour. And it's pretty hazy out here. Hi, everybody. Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, Jeff Hammond with you. Larry, you were noting the first practice, half of the drivers with the top 10 speeds are not what we call the claim jumpers, the Sprint Cup drivers who jump down into the Nationwide Series, but it's the series regulars.
Well, and that's good because we have 48 cars here, and I think when you hear a lot of the complaints a lot of the times from maybe the fans about the Sprint Cup Series drivers going to the Nationwide Series and racing in those races, I think it's great to see, including the fastest guy in that first practice session, hometown favorite Brendan Gaughan from here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So it's good to see these, not only the drivers, but the teams. Remember, that's a team that does not field a car in Sprint Cup. So that's what's good about that.
Jeff, these teams have gotten used to the idea of practicing for the race and qualifying all in the same session and with the same setup.
Yeah, they really have, Mike. I mean, that's the key thing about this series is the way NASCAR makes you finish up your final practice. Basically, when you get ready to get through qualifying on tomorrow morning, your cars are impounded. So you've got to have the race set up that will allow you to get the job done even during qualifying. So it's a little bit of a tricky thing, but these guys have gotten really good at it. And I think we're going to see a lot of fast times, even though they may be a race set up combination.
Okay, qualifying and the race both take place tomorrow. Let's go down to the garage. Dick Berggren.
Well, I think Jeff Hammond just summed up Las Vegas. Fast times, and Carl Edwards is looking to cut some of those right now. Carl Edwards on quite of a roll here because he has 11 consecutive top fives in nationwide competition. Last year, he won the Cup race here at Vegas. He's got a fast car in practice so far. Interesting kind of things that they're working on. Edwards says the tires seem to get faster as they go on. He's never seen anything like that before, so they're trying to figure out if they can make that happen regularly. Let's go to Chris Devoto.
Well, Dr. Berggren, Brad Keselowski very busy this weekend doing double duty on the Cup side as well. He said in his first nationwide practice what concerned him is his car really didn't get up to speed. But the bigger question I asked him, I said, Brad, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Brad Keselowski is running the Klondike paint scheme here and at Talladega. He said, well, at Talladega, I'll run wide open for 3 hours with 42 other cars. What would I do for a Klondike bar? I just go up to the team and ask for one.
Now, Krista, they were supposed to bring some up to the booth.
Did you bring enough for everybody?
I'm getting ready to say, you got to send some up this way.
That's a good-looking paint scheme. But talking about running wide open, Jeff, I watched the practice session that you, Steve Burns, Hermie Sadler did earlier today, the first practice for Nationwide Series. And those guys that are fast, like Brendan Gaughan, Kevin Harvick in particular, you had an in-car camera with him. They are all but wide open around this mile and a half
All but,
track.
I mean, you can say they're blurping it. You can say they're just feathering it a little bit. They could be even trail braking and never coming off the throttle as far as what we can tell. I mean, they are really hustling these race cars around here. And even though this racetrack was repaved a year ago, it's lost some of that grip, but it still hadn't lost any of its speed.
Now, let me get your opinion on this. Something I read on the internet as we look at the 88, the number that is driven in the Sprint Cup Series by Dale Earnhardt Jr. and owned in the Nationwide Series by Dale Earnhardt Jr. with Hendrick Motorsports. And there was an opinion written in a blog that a driver should keep the same number no matter which of NASCAR's 3 big series he's competing in. That is, if Dale Jr. wants to run some nationwide races, he should run number 88 just as he does in Sprint Cup, and those numbers be held out for those drivers and the rest of the numbers assigned to the, let's call them, Nationwide Series regulars who don't regularly compete in Sprint Cup, so that the driver's identity stays with the number. What do you think of that?
I think it's a nice idea. It's a novel idea. I think that, you know, it would be wonderful if that could be the case. It's a lot like football players and baseball players. Whenever they are swapped from a team to another team, they would always like to carry their number with them, you know, so that, you know, you're recognized by the number 88 or the number 5, for example. But I don't think it's practical, Mike. I think because of the number of people that we have in both of these series, the idea of being able to share numbers like that, because you get so many, you get 40 or 50 guys, all of a sudden there's not enough numbers to go around. And sometimes even the numbers in a Nationwide Series, they're based off a sponsor's request. If they can get a number that maybe fits their bill a little bit better, they'd like to have it, you know, if they're trying to sell a product. So I can see a lot of novel ideas that go along with trying to do that, but the practical part of it is it just doesn't quite work. I know Darrell Waltrip tried that one time when he had the 17 Sprint Cup car at that time and a 17 Busch car, but he was about the only guy I know who could pull it off.
You know my response? We got enough issues with numbers right now without adding to it.
Okay. You don't think I was simplifying for you, Larry? That when you saw the 88, it automatically meant Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
I can see where it would probably, from that standpoint, make sense, but I just think it would become too convoluted.
But I think who would be getting crazy about this would be somebody like NASCAR. All of a sudden, you got Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the GoDaddy.com car this week. Well, next week, it's Mark Martin. And that works.
Good morning, too.
Some weeks, but other weeks it doesn't. He's pretty happy with his race car right now, Mike. He's 5th quickest on the board. But I think it gives, be other times like Kevin Harvick. He's not 33 when it comes to the Sprint Cup ranks, but he's 33 in the Nationwide. Now, which one? Maybe he wants 33 here, but he can't get it in the, politics.
And economics.
And economics. Confusing. Let's just stay away from
it. Doesn't work in Washington. Why should it work here?
It shouldn't.
We're not going to talk politics.
Please don't.
We're going to talk about the Biff in the number 16. And Kyle Busch, who does carry his number 18, over here to the Nationwide Series. And let's see if they got all that repaired on the right side.
Oh, he just barely grazed the right side of that race car in practice.
Okay.
He was coming off of turn 4 in the speedy drive that Dale Earnhardt Jr. had mandated being put down because of that oil leak on that car early on in the first lap on practice. He got into a little dust storm right there. He said he kind of like misjudged where he was.
Called
on
it
the
a whiteout, didn't he?
Basically, he was following the car in front of him, and between that speedy drive and everything, he just misjudged it ever so slightly. And it doesn't take a lot to rub the paint off of one of these cars. You get it up against the wall, and that's all he did. He just barely grazed it. So no harm, no foul. He had a very fast race car in that first practice.
Biffle right now is 3rd, and Kyle Busch has just jumped to the top of the practice chart.
That's a surprise.
Yeah. Speed's coverage of Nationwide Series Final Practice is brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, the official auto insurance provider of NASCAR. Kyle Busch top of the chart, Mike Bliss, Greg Biffle, and then this man, Kevin Harvick.
Steve, we have here earlier with Steve.
Hi, Jeff.
Mike, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
This is the same car that Kevin ran in California. We talked about it in our first practice, and the guys brought it back over from California, actually worked on it down here in the garage here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Did all the necessary repairs, talked to Ernie Cope, crew chief. He said he went back to the shop to work on some other cars, left the car chief and about 4 of the guys out here. They made all the changes necessary and did rewrap into the car and everything, and got this race car ready to go. And so far, Kevin's really happy with it. He's 4th quickest in his final practice, but I think Kevin is still looking for that first win with him driving his own car.
Mike, let's listen to Kevin as he goes down through 1 and 2. We'll talk about being off the throttle little to none. Again, I don't think he was ever completely out. As Jeff pointed out just a little while ago, maybe just breathing it, maybe even just sitting up there trail braking it and keeping the throttle down.
This is a little bit tied off, Larry.
And where that can be so much trouble is turn 4, and I think the last time through 4 you heard him have to just breathe out of the throttle a little bit, and that come from the car not wanting to turn.
New look for Harvick's car. Rheem tankless water heaters. This is a cool product because it doesn't heat a whole big tank of water on standby at your house all the time. It only heats the water when the hot water tap is running, and that saves money.
Kind of like supply and demand. I supply it when you demand it.
That's right. Neat product. Here goes the 47, Michael McDowell. Michael's not getting a lot of sleep this week, I'll bet.
No, but we were watching the highlights from last week when he had his oil line issue in California, but it seemed like this guy is looking to make his career based off of dramatic incidents when it comes to racing. And it was the crash he had at Texas, and he had the fire last week in California. All of them pretty much attention getters.
And on Wednesday, he and Tracy had their first child was born at 7 a.m. Wednesday morning.
But that was a long night. What do you think, Larry?
I would say probably, and probably longer nights to come.
That's right. You're going to say, Daddy, what do you think about all that?
Now, the baby was 7 pounds, 7 ounces, and born at exactly 7 in the morning. just before he comes to Las Vegas.
Speaking of the numbers lining up.
That means he'll probably qualify 7th.
And Michael McDowell actually has 7 Nationwide Series starts. Speaking of 7s. I know 3 7s on the slot machine would be good. I guess 4 would be better.
Yeah, as long as you're playing slot machines and not doing the dice table. You don't want to roll a 7 when you're doing dice.
Oh, and by the way, his quickest lap today was set on his 7th lap.
This is
He needs to park this race car and head on down to the strip.
And I'll join him later.
You think he'll be disappointed Sunday if he finishes Saturday if he finishes 7th?
I don't think he will be.
No. How about that? Jason Leffler, the Great Clips Toyota.
He was 6th quickest in the first practice, and in this practice so far he's run 12 laps and he's 8th quickest. Jason, one of those non-Sprint Cup Series regulars I talked about at the top of the show. Those 5 that were in the top 10 that are not attempting double duty here this weekend. We actually have 13 drivers attempting. That was Brendan Gaughan, Mike Bliss, Jason Leffler, Michael Arnett, and Stephen Wallace.
And Jason wound up 11th at California and finds himself 14th in the points right now. So I'm sure he needs to kind of like want to continue building on his 2009 season.
Dick Berggren.
Well, last week at the Auto Club Speedway in California, the big chassis struggle was trying to figure out how to make the cars get through the bumps. And even though this racetrack has a much newer surface on it, David Reagan says all they need to do is get this car so it'll go better through the bumps and he can go still faster. Mike Bliss is right now 2nd on the speed chart, and Bliss is trying to figure out how to get through the bumps better. Shock absorbers, gentlemen, that's where they're all going, shocks.
And Dick, I would imagine if you check with them, they're probably going to say that the bumps that are giving them the most trouble are down in turn 1. At least several of the drivers in that first practice were commenting that that's the part of the racetrack that they seem like they're fighting with more than anything else over the bumps, the way it's upsetting the race car. And again, even though this racetrack is fairly new as far as the surface, let's just remember that when this thing goes through a cycle as far as the temperature, we're talking about 114, 115 degrees in the summer, and it does get below freezing here in the winter.
Look at Mike Bliss, who's 2nd on the speed chart right now. Let's check with Preston.
Mike, I'm down here in the garage stall of Greg Biffle. The Biff has come in and he's talked to his crew chief Eddie Perdue and just said really it's just bouncing a little bit. The bumps are the problem for Biffle as well. That's a lot of B's. Bouncing a little bit on the racetrack. He said he's also getting beat a little bit out of 2 and 4.
Well, I think it's a combination of, yeah, the racetrack is definitely getting rougher, even with the surface only being about 3 or 4 years old since it was reconfigured headed into 2006. But the more aggressive they are with these shocks and these bump stops on the front and coil binding, that just magnifies those bumps because they're going across them with the car almost solid.
Well, didn't you make a mention about the way the sidewall of this new tire is too, and some of that may be coming through some of this what they're feeling and the way that tire is feeling the bumps.
A little softer construction, same tire running both series here this weekend.
Kyle Busch, Mike Bliss, Greg Biffle, Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards are the Fast 5 right now. Tickets are still available in Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend at lvms.com or call the number on your screen for tickets to the Sam's Town 300 or the Shelby 427 on Sunday.
See Jeff Burton here in the 29 car right now. He is 14th quickest. You know, interesting thing about this car, this ride here, it runs a full schedule, but it's shared by 2 or 3 different drivers. Jeff Burton runs it some, Clint Boyer runs it some, I think Stephen Light's going to run it some. Well, these guys at a Holiday Inn function back over the winter said, here's the deal. When the checkered flag waves at the Daytona race in July, whoever has the most wins or the best average finish, their name goes above the door for every race the rest of 2009, regardless of who's driving the race car. So a little wager going on right there between those 3 drivers.
Bragging rights there.
Not too sure that's necessarily that fair.
Must be. It's to them. Dick, is it fair?
Now, Brad Keselowski is in the garage, sitting behind the wheel of a race car that he says is tight, tight, tight everywhere. It's just not loose any place. They are changing the front anti-roll bar. They've already done a shock absorber change on this car, all in the effort to try to loosen them up a little bit better and get a better balance on this hot rod.
All right, got one question for you, Dick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you get a Klondike bar?
Yes, I did. As soon as I found out where they came from, I went right over there, and yes, I got one.
Did you
Jeff
get
Props
enough?
got one too.
Did you get enough for everybody?
I got one for Jeff and one for me. But I offered some other people and they didn't take it, so that's their mistake.
You're not talking about the Jeffs up here.
That's not everybody.
No, I'm talking about Jeff Props that works with me.
Well, that don't help us any, Dick.
By the time I got over there with Klondike bars, they'd all be melted. So you guys are just going to have to tough it out up there. That's all there is to that.
Darn.
We'll make it somehow. Now,
Did I mention on my report about Keselowski, he almost won here last year?
He did.
He almost did.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Thank you.
Very controversial finish.
He and his teammate, Mark Martin, had a little altercation. Now, we talked about Brendan Gaughan at the top of the show. He was the fastest car in that first practice in this 62 car. He's 11th quickest, had a great run at California last week, finished in the top 10. And the South Point on the hood of this car, Hotel and Casino, his family, Michael and Paula Gaughan, Brendan, his brothers, his sisters, they own that. And you know, I know sometimes when you come to Las Vegas, it's about being right there on the strip. But if you want to get away from the strip, you go about 5 miles south of the strip to South Point. You'll have a great time. There's some great food there, great rooms. People are just great to be around down there.
I'll second that right there. Great restaurant there, and Michael's is one of the best steakhouses here in Las Vegas. But probably, like you say, the family run operation is probably the key thing. They treat you just like family when you go down there. But you know what's impressive about this young man right now, guys? He is leading the Rookie of the Year deal. He's 8th in points, and he is probably about as pumped up as I can ever remember him as far as since I've known him as a driver. I think that he has finally found a place where he feels like he belongs, driving for Rusty Wallace. You know, he's getting along with his team right here. He recently married. So many great things happen, and I think positively for Brendan Gaughan. And again, he's a great young man, but right now I think he's really enjoyed driving these cars.
Well, I think that Rusty is probably just about the right hyper level for Brendan. Do you think?
Great point.
Well, I'll go back to whenever Brendan drove for Roger Penske. Rusty was there,
right.
And Rusty and he really, I think, got a great relationship. And he's got Brendan's got the utmost respect for Rusty Wallace, and I think Rusty helped him a lot. And now him driving for him, I think, is kind of like a little bit of a payoff for what Rusty was able to do for his Sprint Cup career, even though it was short. I think that he really did help influence this young man, and he's right now returning the favor, and so far doing a great job for him early in 2009.
Good point. Now, if we had Klondike bars, we could clean up with a little Scotch, tissue or Kleenex there afterward, or whatever. We saw Stanton Barrett there for a quick second, and what an interesting story. He is, not to take anything away from the 27 there of Jason Keller.
And he's got a pretty fast race car too, Mike.
Yep.
He finished up 13th. He's 13th right now, and he was also in the top 10 at the end of that first round of practicing.
We'll get back to Stanton in a minute. Let's go to Krista.
Well, Mike, you guys were talking about Brendan Gaughan as he brought in the South Point Hotel and Casino Chevrolet. Brendan's saying he needs better rotation. He said ideally what he needs from the car, he needs the left front to pull and the right front to get higher in the air. Brendan is actually on the radio right now talking to his crew chief, Brian Berry. Brian Berry was his crew chief when he raced in the Truck Series as well. They have great communication, a great relationship. The car right now just barely kissing the right front in race trim.
Don't forget that Brendan won a truck race here from the pole in 2003.
But you talked about him being hyper. Linda and I ran into him the other night down at South Point, and I was congratulating him about a great run at California, and he was excited about that. But the most thing that had him excited, he said, you ought to see my old truck shop right now. He said, Jimmy Johnson's rig's there, Jeff Gordon's rig's there. He said, there's race trucks and race cars all over the place at that shop. He was more pumped up about that than anything.
Here's a look at Scott Legacy Jr., one of the rookie contenders this year.
He's 18th quickest right now. He's run 14 laps so far in this practice.
The America's Incredible Pizza Company, Toyota. There's the fastest thing in Las Vegas. The U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds just took off. A little bit of a training mission. Nellis Air Force Base, located a good neighbor to the racetrack.
Yeah, it really is.
For a lot of reasons.
You got that right, Mike.
A very good relationship between the Speedway and the Air Force Base. And of course, it doesn't hurt to have all of your big noise generators right in one location in north end of Las Vegas. John West Townley. He is a rookie locked into the show in that Zaxby's Ford, but he's 40th on the chart right now.
This team took a little bit of a hit after Daytona. They had a rule infraction and NASCAR docked them 100 driver owner points. Now co-owner Robbie Benton is going through the process of appealing that penalty right now, but as it stands, they are down those 100 driver and owner points.
Was this the deal, Larry, where in assembling the roll cage and bolting the bars together, or excuse me, welding the bars together, some of one bar that wasn't visible would have been hollowed out?
I think this was a different rule infraction. Yeah, because I get a sneaky feeling if that was the rule infraction, the 09 car may not be here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway this week.
Wouldn't be any appealing. I did see that particular act in the news this week.
What they were talking about with this particular car was that one of the roll bars was putting pressure on a body part, and it was needed to be adjusted, and because the bar was so close to the body that when they went to make the adjustment, they hit that bar with a hammer and moved it about a 1/16 or maybe an 1/8 of an inch. And they felt like that it was compromising the integrity of the roll bar, and they were penalized for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jeff, for clearing that up. Dick?
Carl Edwards is in the garage right now. His crew is changing front shock absorbers, but that's not the most interesting thing about this particular stop. Carl says it smells like something's burning inside the car. So they're wandering around here trying to figure out if he's picked up some kind of debris that's smoking, burning, if it's paint, whatever it is.
You didn't
rental
set one
cars,
of those.
yes, I've smelled it in rental cars, but boy, in a race car, you don't want anything on fire inside.
Hey, Dick, you know what might be interesting to find out? If this is a brand new race car they brought here this weekend, sometimes that's not unusual. You'll get that brand new paint. Maybe the exhaust pipe is a little closer, something like that.
Exactly.
Or maybe they found where Dick set the other half of that Klondike
Smells
bar.
like candy, he says. Smells like cotton candy.
Cotton candy, huh?
Yeah. All right, what's burning inside your race car?
It was my vitamin water. It was all over the floor. It was steam. So,
I think they found it.
Okay.
The driver is guilty, right, Dick?
Yeah, you got it.
Boy, those sponsor plugs get worked in just about everywhere.
Yes, they do.
But it's good to know that at least if he does, you know, break the container that vitamin water is in, it does smell good.
That's right. Won't fit in that hefty bag, will it?
And Eric McClure, the 24 car, right now he's 41st quickest. The good news for him is he's locked in the show. This team did finish in the top 30 in owner points from 2008.
Yeah, this is an Ed Renzi owned race car.
Kenny Wallace, ever vigilant with the Border Patrol. And where's Kenny on the chart here?
32nd quickest in the 28 car.
Need to put more spring in there, maybe a little more bar with it.
Acting like maybe he wants just a little more front sway bar, anti-roll bar, with maybe a little more spring to go along with it.
How bad is your vitamin out? Pretty good still. It's still bottoming out pretty.
Krista Kyle Busch has run 13 laps. One of his earliest laps was the quickest of the day.
Yeah, Mike, just a real quick update on what's going on down here in the 18 garage stall. Kyle said on that last run that the last change they made killed the car in the center of the turns 3 and 4, that is. So they're going back to their last setup. That's what's going on down here in the garage stall.
Boy, what a weekend he had last weekend at Auto Club Speedway, especially on Saturday. Won the Camping World Truck Series race. And this team right here, Jason Ratcliffe there, you see Jason right there at the front of the car, leading 143 of 150 laps. And I think those 7 laps were mainly through transitions of pit stops and cautions that he didn't lead.
I got this for you, Larry. What we saw early in this practice right now, if they can get it dialed back in like they had before, it's going to be hard to beat this guy again come tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Home track.
Home track.
And the way he's been running.
Yep.
And the way that car has been running in practice. Could be a long afternoon.
Now he'll have his work cut out for him in that 18 Sprint Cup Series car, because we do know, regardless of where he qualifies, with qualifying coming up on speed for the Sprint Cup cars, he's going to have to go to the rear of the field because they had engine trouble right off the bat in practice earlier.
46 spots available in this field. That means right now Danny O'Quinn, Mike Harmon, and Derek Cope are on the gotta go list. At going to break, I mentioned three drivers would not make the show. Make that 4. Joe Nemechek has not run a lap in practice. How about Michael Annett? He's had a pretty good run in this practice session. 21st. Best 5-lap average. Kyle Busch leads that chart as well. No surprise, but Greg Biffle is right with him. Kevin Harvick.
It's a lot of the same players that's cut the fastest lap that's in the top 10, but you know, Jeff and I were talking as we see Kyle Busch here back out on the racetrack. Just if I didn't even have a stopwatch, just visually watching this race car here, he's going to be tough to beat tomorrow.
Dick?
Well, Scott Speed is a raw rookie at nationwide competition. Driving car number 99. Today is the first time he has ever been behind the wheel of one of these cars. He's got Formula One experience. He's got Sprint Cup experience and experience in go-karts and other kinds of cars. But today is it for this type of car. Fortunately, he has a very experienced crew chief in Jerry Baxter, and he's doing quite well for himself. He right now is 20th on the charts, and Baxter said he's thrilled with the way Scott Speed has picked up to this nationwide stuff.
Now this is really interesting because Jay Fry and the Red Bull Group, they've got Scott Speed running in the nationwide race to get more track time. The other rookie in Sprint Cup, Joey Logano, Larry, you said earlier, Greg Zipadelli, his crew chief, is excited because Logano is not running the nationwide race this week and concentrating just on the Sprint Cup car. So here's polar opposite philosophies in the two rookie camps.
Well, I think, you know, Greg is just anxious to see if it can make a difference. We've talked so much about how different these cars drive. I think it's one reason, you know, back in the day a few years ago, we would come here and we might have 19, 20 drivers trying to do double duty. And as I mentioned earlier, only 13 drivers attempted this weekend. And the thing about it, even though Scott Speed is locked into the top 35 in Sprint Cup Series, right after this practice, he's got to climb in that Sprint Cup car and go out and try to qualify.
And that may be something that will be a telltale sign real quick, because these cars, we've already talked about it, Larry, you could drive them off into the corner and just barely breathe it. You try that with one of those Sprint Cup cars, they're going to be peeling you off this outside wall. And it's just not going to work. So this guy is going to be under a huge learning curve and a challenge to be able to, you know, show some self-control, and it may hurt him in the long run if we're not careful.
There's some drivers I don't think it absolutely affects whatsoever. Number one victim, Kyle Busch.
And Scott Speed is 20th on the practice chart.
And here's another guy I think can handle it, and that's Kevin Harvick. Again, he's got great car control, and he has the discipline of understanding how to separate the two series and be able to go from one car to the next and not really see a big effect.
But one thing about Scott Speed that works in his favor, that he said in a magazine interview I was reading on the long flight out here, and that was that in a Formula One car, the cornering limit is about 4 Gs. So after pulling 4 Gs, to have a car that reaches its limit of adhesion at 1.5 Gs is really comforting. It's really easy for him to find the limit in these cars and go back and forth based on what his experience is in a totally different kind of racing.
Well, like I say, Mike, I think this is going to be one of those times we're going to get a rare opportunity to see whether or not that produces a results as he has alluded to. I mean, I think that's, you know, a great analogy, but can he do it when it really counts? We're going to get a great opportunity to watch it develop this afternoon when qualifying does come back around here in less than, what, about an hour?
I'll tell you, when it comes to road courses, that young fella has a ton of talent, and he demonstrated it in ARCA and, you know, on the way up to Sprint Cup. But you're right, Jeff, the Vice Titans, and we're in a real pressure situation here.
Yeah, as they say, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk?
See Mike Bliss there in the 1 car. He's still second quickest in this practice session. He's run a total of 21 laps. Mike actually sat on the pole here back in 2004 in the Nationwide Series, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Hey, here comes Goldberg flying in for the day. Thursday on Bull Run, the teams head to Colorado. Team Evo is accused of cheating. And a would-be shortcut nearly eliminates Team Avalanche. The Lexus girls don't hesitate to throw a very unpopular team into the challenge round. What's going on here? It's Bull Run. Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed.
Gets my attention. And so will that right there.
Berge.
Well, what's going on right now at Las Vegas is Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to run in the Nationwide race tomorrow. He's only run twice in Nationwide competition here so far, but you got a second already in those 2 runs. How's the hot rod today?
It's good. GoDaddy's on our car this weekend, and it's running really fast. We got the number 5 car, and it's fun working with these guys. They're a pretty good bunch. Got good attitudes, but we've been working on getting a couple things to happen with our car and get it to drive a little bit differently, and we've been making some changes, and we're getting ready to go into qualifying trim. I think we're done working on the race trim and see what we can do in qualifying trim.
Nice to see you in this garage for sure. They had problems this morning with a cut oil line. They fixed that. The engine seems to be just fine. Let's go to Krista.
A high school wrestling champion from Wisconsin is trying to wrestle the competition here in the Nationwide Series. All right, a takedown is 2 points in wrestling, right? Can you take down some of these guys here in this car?
I wish I could. In wrestling, it paid out pretty good for me. It's a little tough here, though. We got a pretty good race car. These guys on the 10 Braun Racing Toyota have come here and prepared, and I'm trying to talk them into racing this thing yet, but it's been pretty fast with the little bit of support that we got here at the guys helping out. We've seemed to find some speed in the car, and just working a little bit to get through the bumps. It seems like that's been a struggle since we got here, and if we get that right, I think we got a little more speed left in the car.
Is that the hardest part out there right now, is the bumps and just finding the handling? What do you need in this race car that you don't have right now?
Well, the bumps in 1 and 2 seem to be bad. You know, first of all, you hit them with the front and it knocks the front out of the track, and then it seems to upset the rear at the same bit. And if you're off a little bit with your handling, you either got a little too much steering wheel to it or not enough, and you just end up chasing it through the whole corner. So we're trying to get the whole car to calm down a little bit. Qualifying trim, we need to get the back to calm down a little bit to get a little bit faster. But all in all, it's pretty good. Seems like it's been forever since I've been in a car.
What's harder, racing or wrestling?
I don't know. I mean, they're 2 completely different sports, but they both take a lot of mental and physical support. So they're both hard.
Go out there and get a pin, okay?
All right, thank you.
Kelly Byers is 8th right now, and this is John West Townley, who is the reason the track practice is halted, because he has pounded the wall.
Sure has, Mike.
That's concrete dust, it looks like, coming out of those wheels.
Just up the racetrack, you can see up there in the gray where there's just no grip, you could actually start to see the dust fly. You just run out of racetrack.
And he hit the wall about 30 feet after where the safer barrier stops. You see on the right rear wheel, that's concrete dust.
And that was a brand new race car they had unloaded here this weekend.
Boy, was is the operative word there. Red flag in NASCAR Nationwide Series practice. Red flag for John West Townley, who got loose coming out of turn 4, caught the wall with the right rear, and then corrected, and the car took a bite, and the right front went into the concrete pretty hard.
They're checking the racetrack. You can see the cars lined up as we're getting close to halfway through what's final practice for these Nationwide Series cars.
Top 5 all pretty close, but for Kyle Busch, and Krista has caught up with John West Townley.
Yeah, John West Townley looking over his damaged Zaxby's Ford and the backup car coming off the hauler. Are you getting back out there, just going to get this car ready for qualifying, and what happened out there?
We're just going to transfer the setup. It's really unfortunate that something like this happened. I got pretty tight over there in turns 3 and 4 the lap before, and I mean, I probably should have brought it on in. I came around the second time, and it was even worse. And I got out of the throttle, but it was in the right tires were already in the loose stuff, and it was just too late at that point. And that's a characteristic of this place that unfortunately was learned the hard way. But we're going to get the setup transferred, and hopefully we'll have a better day tomorrow.
Well, last year we saw a lot of hard hits in the races here. Are you okay? How hard was that hit?
Oh, not hard at all. That was just it was just a lazy scrub deal. Unfortunately, that's enough to end that car's day. So, but we'll see what we can do tomorrow.
All right. Unfortunately, it looks like the damage is worse than the pain, but that's good news for John West Townley. He's okay.
He was attempting to make his very first start here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and he had run the most laps of anyone in this practice session. He's run 36 laps so far.
Tell you right now, I see him talking to Brad Parrott, his crew chief, but you could pretty much see the pain and agony, I think, on that young driver's face. I mean, because these guys come out here, and whether it's, John West Townley or Ken Butler III, these guys, have got a great aspiration. Here we see, the driver, talking to the crew chief right there, and Brad's going to try to, help him understand what he did right versus what he did wrong, and so they don't make that mistake again. A veteran of many deals, patting him on the back. It's okay. We just kind of shake it off. We're going to move on. But for some of these young drivers, and we hate to keep harping about the fact we didn't have any testing during the off season. So guys like John West Townley, they haven't had the opportunity to go some places in a controlled environment. They come in here and they got added pressure because short, practice times and knowing that they've got to get up to speed and all that stuff kind of adds up. That it's basically these guys are being baptized under fire, and they've got to, I guess you might say, grow up in a hurry.
But Jeff, the really good thing in his favor is he's locked into the show.
He's locked in,
and won't have to qualify to wonder. And right now, the cars who would be out of the show: Robert Richardson Jr., Danny O'Quinn, Mike Harmon, and Derek Cope. Brian Keselowski on the bubble, Dennis Setzer, Curtis Davis, Andy Ponstein, and Johnny Borneman are the drivers who, are kind of in that questionable zone as to whether they'd make the show tomorrow or not.
Yeah, because Joe Nemechek is one of the drivers that's not made a lap in this practice session. Joe, though, along with Greg Biffle, Dale Earnhardt Jr., those are a couple of drivers actually not locked in. They have to qualify on time, but Joe possibly could fall back on the championship provisional. Joe, a past champion of the series.
Morgan Shepherd was, I think it was 25th in the first practice. He was at one point in that session.
He wound up being 26th, Mike, after that deal right there. He was running really well early this morning. We were kind of keeping an eye on him. And again, this veteran, I mean, he just never ceases to amaze me of what he's able to accomplish. He wound up being 19th at California last week. I mean, we always talk about guys who are basically, just coming to start a race and not trying to compete in one, but Morgan is definitely not one of those guys. If he's got a car that'll get the job done, he races, and he's currently like 29th in this year's point standings also. So he's making a bid to make that top 30 cut so they can continue to make races. Again, veteran campaigner, and it doesn't look like he's going to slow down anytime soon.
No, and his strategy is pretty simple. He says if we have enough tires, we'll run the whole day.
Right. It's that simple.
And Shepherd's locked into the show. Right now, he's 33rd quickest.
We've been talking about some of the young guns today. After turning 60 years old, which Morgan is well over 60, he actually has 72 starts in this series after turning 60 years old. Wow. Morgan Shepherd.
You're kidding me, Larry.
No.
There was Kenny Hendrick, the Smith Ironworks Dodge, trying to make it into the show. Evander Holyfield, part of the ownership group of that car. Dick?
Well, Jeff Burton came into this event as one of the favorites to win it because he has won here 3 times in nationwide competition, but they have really struggled with this car today, Mike. Car has been just incredibly loose, and they are at odds end as to what to do about it. Burton just went down to Kevin Harvick, his teammate in Sprint Cup competition. They had a very lengthy conversation. Right now, he's talking to Dan Deeringhoff, his crew chief, and you can see what's going on. He's shrugging his shoulders. What do we do now?
Yeah, but you look at his face. You don't need to hear the words.
No, if body language is any indication about what's going on at the 29 car, you better go call the doctor because somebody is definitely sick.
And it's not Jeff Burton, because he knows his way around this racetrack, because he does a lot of them. He has 8 starts here in the Nationwide Series. He sat on a pole in 2002 and 3 wins total in the series.
Test your NASCAR knowledge with hundreds of challenging trivia questions. Things like, which driver was Cup runner-up in 2003 and 4? See how you stack up. Go to speedtv.com, hit the Games tab to play. NASCAR on Speed. Be there. Correct answer, Jimmy Johnson. Well, there are hundreds of challenging questions there, too.
Go ahead and take the easy one, Mike.
We had that one last week.
We got a scoring monitor to answer an easy question about this practice. Who's fastest right now? Dale Earnhardt Jr. looks like he just made a practice qualifying run in this 5 car.
Good practice there, guys. Way to keep your head on in first practice. Good job.
Go Daddy.
Well, you know what? You know, we still have 45 minutes left in this practice session. Dale Earnhardt Jr., one of those drivers that he's got to go qualify that Sprint Cup Series car. You almost get a feeling that they've decided to kind of quit this practice early, where he can turn his focus to the Sprint Cup Series car. That is a car, though this 5 car will have to qualify on time. But I think now, as we start are getting to the end of this practice, or the second half of this practice, you'll see more and more of them making those mock qualifying runs, as we well know with their race setup.
All right, now looking at this car, I have a question. Scott Speed told us in the Cup Series he wanted to run number 82 because his karting number was 41, and twice that is 82, and established his own identity as number 82. Why is he 99?
Mike.
Mainly because it's a car that's locked into the top 30 in owner points.
Yeah.
It makes life a little easier.
Yeah, that would be true. Krista.
David Green is in his garage stall. He's in the 07 PMCLife.com Toyota this week. Right now, David said he's good in entry on the corners, but like everyone, the bumps are the problem. He said he's bouncing off the left front harder than the right front. They're going to make a little bit of a camber change, looking for the sweet spot. And speaking of sweet, by the way, this team came to my rescue as I had Klondike bar running down my face at the start of this practice. They're the ones who brought me the paper towels.
We should have got those from the 27 car of Jason Keller. He's got plenty of paper towels.
You know, I need to add David's Green name to that list of drivers that I called out a while ago of past champions in the Nationwide Series attempting to qualify that are not locked in the top 30 right now. David, well, I'm getting confirmation that he is locked in. So it would be now Dale Earnhardt Jr., Greg Biffle, and Joe Nemechek will be the guys that would fall back on the past championship provisional if needed.
Derek Cope, he's one of the gotta-go drivers. Yep. Trying to make the show right now outside of the practice times of those who would qualify.
So what you're telling me, Larry, is that for Nemechek, he needs for Dale Earnhardt Jr. to qualify like on the pole, and for Greg Biffle to qualify in the top 10 and get all the stuff
about where they're at right now.
Just like
he'll be in good shape.
Wonder if Kenny Wallace finally got that 28 car off the racetrack, because again, he was having some issues with the car hitting the bump and bottoming out. He wanted to try to stiffen, I think, the right front up and change a little bit of the sway bar to try to keep it off the racetrack.
Well, Jeff, he's not moved up from where he was, which is 32nd on their 33rd now on the practice chart.
His fast lap is a 31:39. He just ran a 31:57. He's run 17 laps in this practice.
You look awesome, man.
Are they talking about you, Larry?
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure.
No.
I wasn't sure if they were talking about Kenny Wallace, Jeff Burton, Jeff Hammond, Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds.
I think they're talking about the improvement in Jeff Burton's race car. 30.96 his last lap. Looks like Krista's gone over as you suggested, Jeff.
To go to the dark side?
No, to go borrow some Kleenex.
Oh, okay.
That's right. You ask and I deliver. From a Jeff to a Jason. Jason Keller in the number 27. How's the race car?
It's actually pretty good. We haven't made our mock run yet, so we're gonna bolt on stickers and see if we need stickers or scuffs or whatever it may be. So it's nice when you're looking at the computer and you're looking at the fast cars and you're right there with them. So hopefully we can get this Scott brand tissue car up front and keep it up front.
All right, thanks, Jason.
And that was a big debate, I think, in the Cup practice we had. Some teams were trying to make a decision. Did they want to go out there and run on brand new, what we call sticker tires, or go out and just put maybe a semi-hard lap on them, just knock the newness off?
Hermie Sadler's favorite race car driver, Mike Harmon, on the racetrack, currently 44th.
Mike's got a sponsor on the car, but it doesn't show up on the entry list, and darned if I can read it. Black letters on the gray car.
A little challenging.
Yeah, we'll Calypso Eco Technologies LLC. Thanks, great shot.
Yeah. Ask our cameraman, they shall deliver.
So let's see, you take Kyle Busch's paint job and Joey Logano's number and add them together and you get Denny Hamlin.
There you go. Denny Hamlin starting this 20 car. This is a car that Joey Logano drove the first 2 races of 2009. Had a good run last week, top 5 over at Auto Club Speedway. But Denny's going to step in the car. Brand new race car. Had never seen a racetrack until they unloaded it here yesterday.
Well, he's 9th fastest. Good run.
And this kind of reunites Denny with crew chief Dave Rogers, because back in 2006, they had 8 wins and finished 4th. They had 8 wins total. And there you see Dave Rogers on top of the hauler in the garage area and finished 4th in the Nationwide Series points. So this is kind of reuniting Dave Rogers and Denny Hamlin. So still, Joe Nemechek is the only driver not to participate in this practice in the 87 car.
And guys, let me ask you a question about that. And I know that Joe is a guy that's been around a while. We'll take a look right here. Robert Richardson, he's one of the guys that has to qualify his way in. But going back to Nemechek, is there a possibility that he is so focused right now on his Sprint Cup effort that he feels like, he'd rather, missed his practices. He ran the first practice in his car, and he knows about what he's got here, that he's decided, I'm going to focus on that because I need to get in that show Sunday. That's where the big payoff is, Mike.
Well, you're right, Jeff, but he owns both those race cars. So you're not going to drag that Nationwide car out here without at least putting an effort into getting it on the track and trying to get it into the show.
But he ran the first practice.
Oh,
so he knows. He knows. That's what I'm saying. That's what my point was. Is he knows he's got a pretty good race car. I mean, he was about mid-pack. He was like 21st, and he was in pretty good shape right there, I think, after that first practice session, saying, I think I can do it with this car without a whole lot of problems. Plus, he's got a little bit of backup being a past champion as possibly having a fallback deal.
And this has been a good racetrack for Joe Nemechek in the Nationwide Series. He won here in 2003, 5 top 5 finishes and 7 top 10s.
And he did that in his car too, I believe.
Yes.
So, again, I think Joe knows this racetrack and feels comfortable here. So I think now his big focus has got to be qualifying, which is coming up here very shortly on speed as far as the Sprint Cup's concerned.
You're
51 cars strong too.
And his was not that quick in practice. No. So you're right. Casey Atwood is 25th on the board in this number 05, the 31W Insulation Ford. Wayne Day's car.
Casey's laid down a lot of laps in this practice session. 31 laps. Still John West Townley, who is now going to a backup car, still the most laps at 36. Jeff Burton right behind him at 35.
Now, Atwood is locked into the show. 31.70. His last lap.
Jeff, something that was interesting that I found reading a lot of driver quotes and even a lot of crew chief quotes about this racetrack here, especially from the driver's side. A lot of them talk like you kind of drive it a lot like Lowe's Motor Speedway. And I found that very, very interesting. They related it, and it wasn't just one driver. It was several drivers that related it to Lowe's Motor Speedway.
I don't like admitting this, but when you were getting ready to kind of like start setting that question up, I'm sitting there looking at this racetrack, and to me, when I look off down in turn 1, when I look out down the back straightaway, with the exception of some of the little chop bumps we see going into turn 3 at Lowe's, I see Lowe's Motor Speedway in front of me. I really do. I mean, I know the banking's different, but I see so many characteristics of that racetrack and the way you you drive into this corner here into turn one, you want to get in, you know, get at the bottom of the racetrack as quick as possible, keep it down there. You know that it's bumpy in 1 and 2 at Charlotte. So it's just, there's a lot of similarities, and I could see why guys would think, you know, this is what we had, you know, it worked at Lowe's, and I think it may work here. And interesting enough, in that first practice session, Kyle Busch, when he first went out, he was making comments about this racetrack, this tire, and he referenced to Lowe's Motor Speedway. This happened to us at Lowe's, and I think it may happen to us here. So he used that as an analogy to try to explain what was going on here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So no, I'm not surprised.
Now here's Stanton Barrett, who I heard on Sirius Radio this week announce he is going to run the entire season in the Indy Racing League. Was down for their test earlier this week, and now is here in Las Vegas to run the nationwide car, and then is going to get ready for the IRL opener.
Got a new sponsor on that car. We hadn't seen that one, I don't think, below. It looks like it's Zona Health. It's a, I guess, lower blood pressure pill or whatever that he's got on his car this week. A little different from what we've been seeing. He's been having an interrush on his car in recent weeks.
But you can count on Stanton to find a sponsor that's a little apart from the norm and bring it to racing.
He looks behind every door to try to find a deal.
And does it well. Dick?
With Joe Nemechek, and we're looking for all the sponsors on your uniform. As a past winner, you should have them. But we're also wondering why no practice in this practice session, Joe.
Well, Dick, I just got back over here, and we need sponsors on our uniform. Our Nemco Motorsports Chevrolet was fast this morning, and we did a qualifying run there at the end, and it was just like I wanted it. We were going to run, but we've been really working hard on the Cup car. We were pretty decent at the beginning of Cup practice, and then all of a sudden, we didn't run like we should have. The car was extremely tight, so we made about 8 or 10 changes to that car to try and get it better. So I've been focused on that, and I'm getting back over here. We'll probably make one run before this practice is over, but working on a couple shock things. I just took a wrench back up in there and trying to get it close.
Man, the pressure of trying to do both sides, get a car into the nationwide race, into the Cup race, you can see it on his face. This ain't easy.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. Let's have a look at the drivers who are in the danger zone. 4 cars are going to go home. That's everybody below that line. But note that Joe Nemechek has not practiced. And if he gets out there, that would put the pressure from Dennis Setzer on down to try and make the Sam's Town 300 tomorrow. Now, Sam's Town, is that Boyd Gaming? Let's give them a call, because Sam's Town has been a sponsor of racing here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway since this track opened.
Got a new name at the top of the list, Mike, since you were showing us guys that had to get in and get out. Mike Bliss has said, hey, guys, I'm not done yet. He has now put down the fastest lap of the day. And, gentlemen, he's the first one to step up over 180 miles an hour.
Attaboy. Mike Bliss driving for James Finch. There he is. And we saw the 47 a second ago. Krista.
Michael McDowell is just swinging his car into his garage stall, and just before he came in, he said, boys, I have to come in before we wreck. We are all over the place. We've really screwed something up pretty good. He said his car wiggles before he even gets into the corner. At the start of this practice, he said his car looked really good. So they have really fallen behind on this race car. Again, that's Michael McDowell, and as we've documented, he's our newest papa in the garage. He's been a dad for all of 2 days.
You know, back to that time that Mike Bliss ran at a 29.96, the first car to run in the 29.90s. A lot like Sprint Cup, we could be flirting if the conditions are right weather-wise in the morning, especially with it being cool when the first cars go out. We could be flirting with a new track record. A track record was set last year by Brian Vickers at a 29.71, so we're getting within about 2.5 tenths of that track record from a year ago.
Carl Edwards, 6th quickest. His last run was just about 3 tenths off of his fastest lap.
Of course, Carl Edwards finished 2nd to Kyle Busch at Auto Club Speedway. We talked about that run. I said, Carl, have you ever run so good and run so hard to be a distant second? He said, I don't believe I ever have.
Wow.
He said, my car was good, just that car was that much better than my car.
Larry, the cavalry has arrived. Would you like a Reese's Klondike, an Oreo Klondike, or the original Klondike?
Oh, heck, how can you not go with the original Klondike?
Jeff?
Well, the thing is right now, Mike, you said the cavalry. I thought I heard the good humor man kind of come through with the Klondike bars, or good humor woman in the form of Lynn Mignani. She has now delivered us.
So Jeff props, they're just, they're you know, I think they were frozen hard because they're just right.
Perfect.
So Krista and Dick, this will be your segment because
we're busy.
We got Klondike.
I'm kind of like
Lynn.
Go, Dick.
I got to go with the Oreo.
Okay.
Jeff Burton back out there.
I thought you said go, Dick.
Well, he didn't. He didn't
Come
go.
on, doctor,
so now
help.
we got to be talking. Burton is 17th quickest. There goes our Klondike car.
Yep. Thank you to whoever kind of made this happen on the team, along with our team.
Jeff props to Lynn Mignani.
I'll tell you right now, appreciate it. Well, I feel like we need to give an attaboy out to the doctor too. He felt our pain, so he sent us some medicine. They were talking about next time you guys have some shrimp up here, make sure you send some down to the boys on pit road. We never have that in the Hollywood Hotel. It's just bologna sandwiches and hamburgers.
You got bologna sitting alongside.
No, I got a hot dog sitting beside me. I got bologna on one side and a hot dog on the other.
We're definitely starting to see a lot of movement at the top of the chart. I think as this practice is getting within about 30 minutes, there's Stephen Wallace in the 66 car. Had a good top 10 finish last week at Auto Club Speedway, and he's 9th quickest. He's run a total of 28 laps so far in this practice.
Larry, since Dick didn't want to help us out, you just go ahead. Mike and I are busy.
And mine's becoming a milkshake. But we're definitely starting to see a lot of them make some of these practice qualifying runs.
Here the 27 team sent Kleenex.
Why don't we go to break where we can eat these before they melt?
Makes sense to me. The wind has picked up here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series.
How quick can you eat a Klondike bar?
We beat you.
I better
we
eat
beat
faster.
you, Mike. We beat you, Mike. But Larry was a little bit ahead of us. He had one bite out of his if we ever got a chance to taste ours. But you're right about that. The wind is really whipping around, but I understand it's going to be this way all weekend long. We can expect blustery winds from now through Sunday.
All right, let's check with Krista.
Justin Allgaier is one of the Rookie of the Year candidates here in the Nationwide Series. He is in the race car, his number 12 machine, talking with his crew chief, Chad Walter. And really what these guys need to do is just work on seat time and communication. This will be Justin's first start here at Las Vegas. He said he's watched a lot of video of the race from last year, but he really doesn't have any experience on the track. So Chad just wanted to get him some seat time. They're trying to get him comfortable in the car. Right now, Justin trying to keep his car pinned to the bottom.
Yeah, what was interesting this morning is Mike, Daryl and I sat down with Kurt Busch, and Kurt asked his PR director, Tom Roberts, he said, is Justin ready for me to drive him around in the pace car just to show him a little bit about this Las Vegas Motor Speedway? This is a Penske Nationwide Series team.
Well, if you look at it like this, think about Kurt showing Justin around. I'm sure he showed his brother Kyle around, and he learned pretty quick. So maybe he's a pretty good professor when it comes to teaching somebody how to get around the racetrack. And here's a guy that didn't fare too well last weekend in California, but Johnny Borneman III, he would love to be able to make this race right here and make it happen.
He did make the race at Daytona in the season opener as well.
Picked up a bit here. He's top 20 now.
Larry, wasn't it here when he got that little bit of a problem, knocked the back end off, and he took the two cars and they put them together, and he went out and he qualified for the race?
I believe it was here at Las Vegas Motor
Very
Speedway.
impressed when they were able to accomplish that. Because again, this right here is a limited, budgeted team, and you know they don't get an opportunity to do a lot of, I guess you say, competition against this form of caliber teams. You might say he runs a lot here on the west side, or it used to be called, but. I don't know what kind of move you call that right there, but again, 20th quickest right now.
Boys. Sure is nice when they work like that.
There you go.
If he can just back that up and maybe even add a little to it tomorrow during qualifying, he'll race here in this 300-miler tomorrow afternoon.
He's in pretty good shape right now, according to the practice chart.
Well, if you kind of look at where everything is right now, Larry, wouldn't you have to agree that if a guy can run down in the 32nd bracket, he should be pretty good shape? It looks to me like a cutoff line of being kind of tight. It's going to be in the 31, somewhere in the 31-second bracket may get you in the show, but if you run in the 32nd bracket, high 30s, you should be okay.
You know, and I think we'll have to see those first few cars go out. It just depends on what the racetrack's got in it, too. You know, we've seen it come in here on Saturday morning and the racetrack have a half a second built into it. But based on, if we were qualifying right now,
today,
I think you're exactly
very,
right.
Very solid.
Tony Raines, the 34 car, he's the slowest of the 46 cars that's practiced so far.
Jason Keller riding with now.
Rolled out early, but he picked the throttle up early, so he's able to carry that speed off the corner, and it'll go all the way down this back straightaway with him.
And remember one thing, he did talk about earlier that he had not made a qualifying run yet, so this may be his qualifying run we're listening to. Because there again, he just barely breathed it right back to the throttle, right around the bottom of this racetrack. Up off, looks really good up off of turn 4, headed back to the start-finish line. Let's see what the timing charts tell us.
I believe he's still kind of on race runs because his fast lap is a 30.65. He just ran a 31.57 right there, a total of 27 laps.
If that's the case, that's a great indicator of how fast these guys and how hard they're going to be racing tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty wild race.
Number 40 of Scott Wimmer for Curtis Key Motorsports, the federated Chevrolet.
You know, I think in the Nationwide Series race here tomorrow, and I especially, just with all my heart, believe in the Sprint Cup Series race on Sunday. With what we saw last Sunday and last Saturday in the 2 races there, especially the Sprint Cup race, and knowing this configuration, this racetrack with this progressive banking, where the further up the track you go in the corners, the more banking. I think we're going to have some good side-by-side racing all day long tomorrow, and especially all day long on Sunday.
I believe you're right, Larry. After what we saw, I mean, last week was just, I mean, don't take this the wrong way. I just think we were blessed with one of the more competitive races we've ever seen at California since we started going out there, and it was just a lot of fun to watch those guys put their show on. And in the end, I think we saw a good indicator of maybe what to expect the rest of the season. You know, because Matt Kenseth, I don't think anybody again would have picked him to win the first 2 races of the season, and it's just great to see that Jeff Gordon had arguably one of his most competitive races he's had in recent years.
And you know what I'm seeing that I like, Mike? It's Friday. It's practice and qualifying day. There's not a single race here today. And I am seeing an awesome crowd in the grandstands here just for Sprint Cup Series qualifying and these practice sessions today.
That's true.
Well, even to reinforce that, Larry, look out across back, all the campers inside the infield, everything here indicates that we've got a great crowd building for the weekend.
Yeah, I think this infield was pretty much sold out come Tuesday.
And not only is there a big camper lot inside the track, El Monte RV has a huge camper lot outside of turn number 4. So NASCAR Nation is out in force here in Las Vegas. We get an air show every time we come to Las Vegas. Nellis Air Force Base, right across the road, is the home of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. They go out and maneuver, and we get to enjoy it.
Got that right. And besides that, we've got a lot of the members from Nellis Air Force Base and the Thunderbirds that are part of, I guess you might say, the track security and family, because we see them working, helping us up and down the elevators and things during the course of the week. So it's great to see some of our servicemen and women being involved with our NASCAR event here this weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Okay, here's Krista.
Mike, we gave you a little report on Justin Allgaier talking to his crew chief, Chad Walter. Justin, in the car, you guys look like you're going back to race trim. We talked about it's your first time out here. What do you think?
Oh, I love this racetrack. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's really fast. And they've done such a great job here at Las Vegas to make the racetrack fun for not only the drivers but for the fans. So hopefully we can get this Verizon Wireless Dodge back where we want it to be in race trim, and I feel like we got a really good shot at having a good car.
Justin, you were here in a truck, but it was the old track. How different is this track now?
Well, it's a lot different. It's shaped pretty much the same, but there's a lot of differences in the characteristics. The banking's a lot different, and just the whole racetrack in general is quite a bit different. So it took a couple laps, before the day started in a pace truck, with just trying to get acclimated with where the tracks was at, and feel like we've done that, and we've got a good car, and Chad Walsh and all the guys have done a great job, and everybody at Penske Racing. So really excited, just glad to be back here in Vegas, and hopefully we can put it to the front.
All right, we're going to let Justin get back out there in race trim, and he's talked about taking that pace ride. That was with David Green.
That was Don Cornelli, the cameraman down there. Nice shot.
Yeah,
Ooh,
very
how about
creative.
this one?
How about that shot?
At 12 o'clock, Thunderbirds.
It's Andy Mitchell on camera.
It went just right over top of where we are.
I want to say we're about the hardest working fellows in show business. The folks that man our cameras are up there through all these practice sessions, all the qualifying sessions, all the races, and they're all like us. They wouldn't have it any other way. They're all type A personalities, give me the ball kind of guys. I want to get the shot, and through wind and rain and hi Donnie Russell and all that goes on, they're out there to bring the excitement of NASCAR home to you.
And the thing is right now, Mike, what's so interesting is the fact that they are being directed somewhat, but a lot of what you see, they say, hey, a fan would like to see this. This is a shot I would want to be seeing at home if I was sitting on the couch. And they're just fabulous. They are the best of the best, I think, of bringing us, not only our sport, but whatever you see on the camera. These people right here are the top of the list. I'm telling you right now, they're great to work with.
There's Pony. I mean, all these fellows across the roof and down on pit road and in the garage. We appreciate it, and that the folks, the drivers like to say, I want to thank all the boys back at the shop. Well, we want to thank the boys and girls in the production truck and all of our technical staff. It takes over 200 people to put these telecasts on, and we appreciate all their efforts and hope you do too.
We got trouble right there off of turn 2. Brendan Gaughan is up and spinning off of turn 2 right now. He got a high off the corner and got into the outside wall because of it.
I thought for a minute he was going to keep it off of it.
That hurts.
Or at the backup, right?
Oh yeah, look how far that rear end's pushed over.
He got in behind Andy Ponstein right there. I think he was going to go high, and that hasn't been cleared off very much. He got up that loose stuff, and
you could see the rooster.
He just couldn't. And I think right here, he would have had it saved. He looked like he almost needed to go back to the gas a little bit, but he didn't. It rolled back up into her. I mean, he has such a fast race car too.
Yeah, that first hit doesn't hurt the car that badly. It's the one that's coming. Up in the loose stuff here. Kisses the wall. Not so bad. Here comes trouble.
That is a hard lift.
I'm going out in 2.
Now, they'll eventually get that groove worked in by the race, but right now she's not ready to be racing again.
Jeff, I agree with you. Right there brushing the wall. That's not bad, but
no, he was
the car's
okay.
not locked down. He's not. Oh, God.
Well, it's like I think he went back to the gas. I think he thought maybe he was a little bit further away, maybe what he realized. But the bottom line is it didn't work, and he hit the left side extremely hard. You can see the right side is relatively unscathed with a little brush with the outside safer barrier. I think they could have repaired that, but the left side is the one that's definitely going to require backup.
You could almost watch the car, and he knew he was in trouble, but he was too deep and too committed to it.
Yep.
But nothing he could do then. He was just along for the ride.
Red flag is out. We'll get back to practice in a moment. Brendan Gaughan walking back to check out the unloading of the backup car after getting into the turn 2 wall. And wondering how much time is left in this practice session. The answer is not enough.
Not enough. Only about 11 minutes as we speak right now.
And the sad part about this, guys, is he was off to such a strong start this year, and hopefully this won't make, you know, everything kind of like come unravel, because I think if he can get through these next 2 or 3 races, he's got a great chance of being, you know, being up in points and being. He really felt like after California they could wind up being in the top 5 in points when they leave here today. He's 8th right now, and again leading the Rookie of the Year deal. This solid runs, and this needs to not let this right here rattle him.
Krista?
Well, Brendan Gaughan is extremely fired up right now. Remember, this is his home. This is Vegas, is what he calls home. It's where he used to live, where his race shop and his race team used to exist. He got out of his crunched car, kept his helmet on, and walked briskly back down to the hauler where they unloaded the backup car. Brendan Gaughan wants to win here worse than any other place. We're going to catch up with him right now. Brendan, I know you're fired up. This is home. This is where you want to win worse than any other. I don't even know what to ask you right now because I know what the answer is going to be.
No, it was just stupid on my part. I was behind a bunch of idiots, and instead of just stopping and saying, yeah, we got killed on the qualifying lap, park it, and I went into turn 1, and I thought he was going to let me go, and I got up there and hit a couple bumps, got loose, thought I could just spin it, and I screwed up. But fortunately, Rusty has good race cars in the shop. I just haven't driven many of them. So it's another good race car, just haven't been in it yet, and we'll go out there and see if we can't put it back on top of the board early tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get a couple laps in. My guys are good. They're going to work on it fast.
That is the hardest thing for a driver, though, is to pull back the reins, isn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, but you got to be smart. And, you know, I was all excited. We know we could get back to the top of the board with that South Point Impala, and I wanted to do it, and I just was impatient. And whenever you're impatient, all you're going to do is get yourself in trouble.
Thanks, Brendan.
So he was on a practice qualifying run. Now the good news, since this has happened in practice prior to qualifying, he will get to start this race where he qualifies tomorrow. The bad news is the only laps he's going to get in that race car prior to the race is that those 2 qualifying laps in the morning, it looks like.
Well, it depends right here, I think, Larry. I think there's a lot to be said here, and this is going to be a NASCAR call of what they're going to allow him to do and not do. They may feel like that, you know, this car here is ready to go, and they may have a sit up underneath it. He may get a chance to go out and make a lap or 2. I just don't know. You know, NASCAR tries to work with these teams in situations like this to try to give them every opportunity to make a run. The car will have to go through another inspection no matter what, even if they do allow him back on the racetrack. So it'll be interesting to see right now how things kind of play out. You see the NASCAR officials there looking the car over. You know, maybe they can check some of the safety stuff, make sure that it's agreeable enough that they can let him maybe make a lap or 2. So with the amount of time we got left, who knows? We may see that black number 62 South Point Hotel and Casino Impala Chevrolet, as he likes to say, roll back out one more time.
Yeah, NASCAR, all they want to do is just get a few safety things checked. If they can feel good that the race car's safe at the racetrack, they'll handle all the rest of their inspections. You can see the NASCAR official there. That's a sheet right there that gets filled out. You can see him filling some of the safety things out. Then they'll do the rest of the inspection after this practice.
That means templates, engines, all the underneath have to be gone through. And that actual procedure takes, what, a couple hours, doesn't it, Larry, to be able to be done correctly. So that's the reason why NASCAR tries to work with these teams.
Well, the track is reopened for practice. There's Kelly Byers and his Toyota, who right now is 14th, but more importantly, he is 4th among the go-homers.
He's run a lot of laps in this practice session.
And the thing is, it's getting a little bit shady down here in turn 1. Guys making qualifying runs, some guys not making qualifying runs. You're going to have to be careful because you could run up on another slow car and have the same thing happen to you that happened to Brendan Gaughan. So for a lot of these teams, this last 5 or 6 minutes of practice, you better be on your P's and Q's, and your spotter, he needs to be aware of who's in front of you and what kind of tires they've got on, because it could get you in trouble.
Kelly Byers just jumped up to the 12th position. I stand corrected. He's not run a lot of laps in his practice.
This is what's impressive right here. The 99 Scott Speed, his first nationwide run, second quickest in his final practice.
Dick?
Well, Denny Hamlin is out there with the qualifying setup under the car, Mike. They've taped the nose off. He's got 4 brand new tires on it. He's been around 10th all day. That is about to change. Hamlin will be quicker now.
Now, most of these cars are getting some benefit of a draft. There are enough cars out there on the track, so let's not so much call these most of these mock qualifying runs because of the number of cars trying to get laps in before time expires here in about 6 or 7 minutes.
Hamlin jumps up to 6th quickest.
30.237. So Mike Bliss still with about 6 minutes to go. The only car so far that's run down in the 29-second bracket at a 29.66, 966.
Justin Allgaier now 4th.
And we're starting to get quite a bit of shade down in turn 1 and 2, which certainly will give a little more grip there. There you see car owner Rusty Wallace talking to his driver Brendan Gaughan. Little pat on the back. Guarantee you Rusty's a good cheerleader. You won't see him down.
Closing minutes of final practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. And what's interesting about the top 25 in this session is that unlike most cup practices where the first lap or two is the quickest, 23 of the top 25 have set their fastest laps very, very late in this session as the teams transition from race to qualifying race type setups.
And the track's cooling down and getting faster at the same time, I think. So a combination of things there.
But it should be indicative of what we're going to see tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock when these guys will line up and qualify and be impounded right after they make these qualifying runs. So, you know, having a car that you feel like is balanced enough to tape up and go out and make an effort here this afternoon should be a good indicator.
And this is about the same time that tomorrow afternoon this race will be coming to a close. We'll be seeing a checkered flag on this 300-mile race.
We saw Jeff Burton a second ago. He has run the most laps in this session, 51. Eric McClure has run 49, and they lead the league in that department. Scott Lagasse, 38 laps. He's in the top 15.
He continues to stay up there on the speed charts. Yep. 14th quickest. He's run 39.
I just wonder whether or not with Jeff Burton, you know, again, a 3-time winner here, if he's gotten his race car any better, because he really wasn't happy with it earlier today.
3 drivers have won here from the pole in what's now the Nationwide Series. Jeff Green did it in the inaugural race in 1997. Mark Martin in 99 and Jeff Burton in 2002.
David Reagan currently 15th quickest. It looks like we only have a handful of cars that's not really taking advantage of this practice and run a lot of laps. This is really an hour and 45 minutes is actually a pretty long practice session. You get a lot done, make a lot of runs.
And as noted earlier, everybody's been on the track with the exception of Joe Nemechek, who's been over in the Cup garage, but thought he had a pretty good lap in the early practice session. Not too worried about his qualifying prospects.
And Larry, the one thing I was going to say to you, I don't remember us ever having an hour and 45 minutes worth of practice when we were crew chiefs. Normally they were an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. You know.
Plus, not to mention the hour and a half they had earlier this morning.
Yeah.
So a lot of practice.
So once again, the drivers that must qualify on time are shown here. The cutoff is there, but that will move up a spot, you know, based on Joe Nemechek's having a faster car than what we see on this list because he did not practice.
And we need to mention that it looks like Brendan Gaughan in his backup car did not get back out on the racetrack, as well as John West Townley, because you see him right there in the 09 car putting the race engine in that car, and there you see Brendan Gaughan. So those two cars will see their first racetrack activity when they qualify in the morning.
So Mike Bliss, the former champion of what is now the Camping World Truck Series, wins practice.
And don't forget, Mike, he is a former pole sitter here at this racetrack. So not really a big surprise. The guy in second's the one that's got my attention.
Scott Speed. 6 different pole winners in the last 7 years. I think Speed can extend that streak tomorrow morning.
But you just think about it. We got 2 guys in the top 4 there with Scott Speed and Justin Allgaier that's seeing this racetrack for the very first time. Pretty impressive.
Fastest of the go-homers, Dale Jr., Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, and Kelly Byers. So qualifying tomorrow right here on Speed and the race on ESPN2 later in the day. Stick around because we have NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying coming at you in just a few minutes.